Okay, you can't answer the next one. So the next one is, when did it actually become the national motto?
1954.
I actually don't have 54. So Congress made it the national motto. Very close to 54.
53. 55.
One more.
56.
There you go. There's the other.
There you go.
So those two coins, what was that? That was 1932?
34.
34. I don't actually, that one, the dates, it's 1930 something, but I couldn't actually get all of it. So that's a 34. Those do not have In God We Trust. But I found it interesting because there are ones that earlier than that do. And I think that because it was a buffalo nickel and it had some Indian connotations, they didn't include it.
Yeah.
So it was optional during that period. They didn't have to. I'm going to pass a couple around before I answer the next question. These actually aren't gifts. I'm just going to pass these around so you can look at them. Here's a dime from 1892 that does not have it, and one of the last bills, $5 bill, which is 1953, which does not have it. And the other one that I found interesting, this is a commemorative coin for the Constitution, right, that was done at the 200th anniversary for the Constitution in 1987. At that point, it was law that they have this on there because it's the national motto, right? But pay attention to how big the E pluribus unum is, and if you can find it, how big the In God We Trust is. It was interesting that they did that. So yeah, people think that that's been on our coins forever, and it's obviously a very recent thing. And I do think that some of that was in response to the communism, and I'm going to come into it again later too, and trying to make sure that people recognize we weren't an atheist nation. Right? Certainly it needs to get knocked down at some point. So the other one is the under God question in our religion. And what's interesting, a couple things interesting about this. The original pledge read, "I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." Found it interesting that the original one actually didn't say our flag, it was my flag. And I think they were actually referring, in some sense, to their state flag. So when did that change?
1954.
You can't answer.
Try to stop.
So, okay, let's change the question. When was the first time somebody used that? And don't answer. It was before 54.
1890?
No, it was close to then. It didn't start happening until the 40s.
42.
Anybody else? Close? Later 40s. So in 1948, since you were the closest, Ket?
Also, prior to 42 or whatever, they used the Bellamy salute.
Yeah.
Did they really?
The pledge, yeah.
You heard that.
Hitler kind of took
So there's
the luster on that.
So there's a guy by the name of Louis Bowman who was a chaplain, and he was the chaplain of the Illinois Society of the Sons of the American Revolution. And so in 1948, they had a meeting at the society, and they did a swearing with the pledge. And that was the first time he added the words under God to it. And so what he did after that is went around and started. He was also a public speaker and went around doing a lot of speeches, and he'd always start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and he would always add under God. And that was where the practice started. And again, I think the war and the communism and all that, they wanted to change things. And so they took his practice and turned it back. Okay. So let's move ahead. I'm going to go through some statistics now so that we can talk about kind of the social or society view of things. Right? I don't know if you guys can read this. Is it very readable?
Sort of. Yep.
Yeah.
These are worldwide religions. I found so this is from a guy who ended up writing the first Christian encyclopedia. I mean, there was a whole group of people, but he headed the program. A guy by the name of Barrett. And so you can take this as kind of prejudicial. And the encyclopedia has been criticized since this for promoting Christianity too much, for flowering in Christianity's flavor. I don't know if he flowered numbers or not, but even if he did flower it, look at the third one. The third one up here is secular, non-religious, agnostic, and atheist.
Yep.
So I found it interesting that he put Christianity green, Islam red, and you might not be able to see this here, but it's yellow. So the non-religious is yellow. I don't know if he meant the colors that way, but it certainly was funny. So the other things, a couple other things to note is I looked at the neo-paganism, and there's 1 million people. Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I know a bunch of them.
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
I would say that that's a statement on how important religion is to people, separate from what they actually think rational. I mean, obviously that, and to me Scientology and a few others, are fairly made up, and they're okay with that. It's a social thing. Yeah?
A Pew study showed that 11% of atheists believe in a higher power.
Huh.
We're Pastafarians.
No, we're not there.
Rastafari.
No, this is Rastafarian.
I know.
Yeah.
Pastafarians are not in there.
Laura Bush.
No flying spaghetti monster
Fred
worship.
Laura Bush is Rastafarian.
The only other one I found interesting was Baha'i. I don't know if you know very much about that religion. They're very technology-oriented, trying to live with kind of current times, and they kind of adjust their views through the ages based on kind of current thinking, which is a fascinating religion, but really is that religion? Anyway, I thought this was interesting, just from a statistical standpoint. I'm going to go through a few of these. The Scientology one is also a little bit interesting just because talk about a made-up religion. My understanding was that this was designed based on a bet. That L. Ron Hubbard was with somebody and said that, and actually he did this with one of his books too. What's his big science fiction book?
Battlefield Earth.
Battlefield Earth, where
Never
somebody
read
kind
it.
of bet him that he couldn't write a science fiction book that would sell. And he wrote Battlefield Earth, which is a great book. He did a great job. And this is another one where my understanding was somebody bet him that he couldn't found a religion. And there's 500,000 adherents. But part of this is actors, which we'll get to in a minute, who have made it kind of, a fad, a thing to do. So another look at this, and let's not just look at the U.S. So this, you can look at 1990, 2001, and kind of the percent change over here between the two. And I found it fascinating that they separated agnostic and atheist from non-religious and secular.
So start adding them. There we go.
Right.
Although if you look, these numbers are pretty small. I mean, so you're talking 1% maybe total. But I don't know why they would do that. And how do you define that?
Yeah.
And I think part of the answer is this is still somewhat of a word that people want to avoid, right? Even agnostic, you get into this word and I'm not even sure they know what it means. But atheism, it scares them. So I think they probably put it on there separately because people wouldn't want to. If they put all of them together in one string, people might look at atheists and go, oh no, I don't want to do that. The other one is this one again. Wiccan, pagan, and druid? What are people thinking?
We had a case here in Iowa of a student in a school who wanted to portray a Wiccan exhibit in the school, and the teacher forbade him to do that. And it blew up into a big old fight over religious freedom and allowing the student to be able to express his religion.
Yeah, that's the
And
scary part.
So the
Let's get into
Wiccan,
the
the
druid
pagan.
side of it and see what
Yeah.
they do.
It's also interesting that the Pew surveys have said around 15%
I think I have
is the non-religious, secular. If you add those up, they're
Right.
pretty close.
They are, and I had some Pew ones, and I decided to take them out because I thought they were somewhat prejudicial. But
They're
the numbers are actually
self-reporting.
almost always between 13 and 17%, somewhere